Hello, fellow human! Welcome back to another Dank Doggo / ChoosingBeggars. We have 6 stories in total for you guys today. The first story is posted by you / /triple-buyer-777. You want free food because you think you know my boss? Sure! Some context before I start. I work in a Japanese restaurant as a cashier. My job is simple. I take your order, I tell the kitchen, and give your change and or receipt, then I give you your food. This choosing beggar is but one of many and is fairly common occurrence. Same kind of person, same kind of issue, and the same result. After you read this, just imagine happening again every other month. Here it goes. On one night shift, I was busy shuffling left and right, organizing orders, calling them out to customers. I was also keeping track of online orders, labeling them, and handing them to right assigned delivery drivers. This isn't a fancy restaurant. Think sit-down restaurant. It's more akin to fast food joint. Fairly cheap and real filling. Enter choosing beggar, CB. She comes in wearing some overly expensive name brand items. We're talking about LV handbags, Gucci sunglasses, and a bunch of other fancy clothing. She looks like the kind of person you'd see with housewives of whatever county city. She got extra large Starbucks coffee that got a dozen toppings and extras like whipped cream and chocolate syrup. Only thing missing was a tiny loud dog that you could punt like a football. But the point is, this is some fairly well-off lady, I think. Me, irasamase, welcome. CB, okay. Can I get some rice and some curry? Me, sure, how much rice and curry you want? Also, will you be taking it to stay or to go? CB, I'll just take a some shrimp tempura. Me, okay, with tax altogether, it's $10.94. CB, I'll take it for free, thank you. Me, pardon me? CB, I said I'm not paying for it, I want it for free. Me, yeah, I can't do that. CB, excuse me, just give me my order. Me, sorry, but you have to pay for it. CB, I know your boss. Your boss is letting me have this food for free, and I'm ordering you to give it to me. The attitude she gave me rang up red flags everywhere. We have given out freebies for more important people, business associates, and to a certain extent family members. Most of the time, my boss and a general manager will tell employees about it beforehand. They'll either tell us in person or send us a text to be on the lookout for Mr. So-so and Miss Important Business Person. I decide to act like a real derp and just playing along for a bit. Me, you know my boss? CB, yes I do. His name is Tashi. I'll call him right now and tell him you're a bad worker and you get fired for not doing your job. Me, Tashi? You know some person named Tashi? CB, yes. Tashi said I can have whatever I want here. I don't have a boss named Tashi. My boss is a woman and is nowhere close to the name Tashi. She may have overheard the name of someone important in the restaurant, but probably misheard. Me, sorry, never heard of him. Are you talking about Takahashi? CB, yes, Takashi. That's not a typo. She mispronounced the name after I said it. He said I can have free rice and tempura. It was at this point I caught her and her BS. Me, yeah, I smile. I don't have a boss named Tashi, Takahashi, or Takashi. CB just looks at me with her jaws open. I can hear some residual squeak or mild squawking. If a person was a computer, this is when the computer suddenly freezes for a couple of seconds. She takes off her sunglasses violently and starts pointing at me angrily before she's screaming at me. CB, you will be fired. I'll make sure your boss knows that you're the worst employee. You'll never work here, you. Me, and who's my boss? CB, you'll be fired. Me, looks at another customers behind her. Alright, next customer, step down. Welcome, how can I help you? CB just huffs and leaves the place. All the while the customer asks, who the F was that crazy tramp? Me, some crazy tramp, I don't know. If you can afford some of the most overly expensive thing, you can probably afford food. You can't eat LV, Gucci, or Apple AirPods. Remember, imagine this scenario multiple times. Happened more than once to other employees. I love how OP made a complete fool of her. Very smart of him. We have the second story written by u/loading experience. Give me part of inheritance. So, my grandfather passed away a few years ago and my grandmother left with a house and 3 hectares of land to her name. A few months later, my grandmother's half-brother, whose wife was also dead, sold his apartment in the city and moved with my grandmother to help her out as they were very close since I can remember. Our families used to be very close and my grandmother's brother was super nice and a cool guy. It's just that I never had much contact with his grandchildren as they were living in the other side of the country. Last year, my grandmother has also passed and me and my 2 brothers were each left with 1 hectare of land to our names and the house was left for me. Since we all were very close, we let my grandma's brother continue living there since after selling his apartment, he really didn't have anywhere to go and he didn't want to move to other side of the country with his kids. Not to mention, the house itself had almost no value, and there were other houses in the village that were standing on the market for years with no interest. So comes the spring, and my grandma's brother also passes away, and it's during the funeral where absurd begins. I was smoking outside the church when his grandson comes and immediately goes down to business. Conversation went as something as follow. Him, so what about my inheritance? Me, what do you mean? Him, my grandpa's part? Me, didn't he bought you a car and gave you money for down payment of your apartment? Him, yeah, but he sold his apartment and gave me money. It wasn't inheritance. I'm talking about inheritance of the house and lands where he lived. Me, well, the house and lands belonged to my grandparents and your grandfather had nothing to do with it. Him, you can feel him getting irritated. But my grandfather lived here, so surely it also belonged to him. Me, we let him live there because he didn't want it to move. He never had any ownership. Him, but what about all the help he gave to your grandmother? Surely he deserves some reward for being so helpful. Me, it doesn't change anything. The house and the lands belongs to us for more than a year now since it was my grandmother's. Him, being very irritated. He deserves some parts of inheritance. I'll be demanding my rightful part. Me, dude, you got your part when your grandpa sold his apartment and gave almost everything to you and your mom. Him, he lived here, so the part also belongs to him and his family, and we'll be making a claim. Me, dude, there's no claim to make. The inheritance is already claimed. Him, we'll see about that. And it's been months now, and that has been bothering us on Facebook and on the phones about how we stole his inheritance. He just recently wrote an SMS reminding us that we are thieves, and I was browsing Reddit and thought I should make a post about it. Well, OP should have sent him a bottle of antipsychotic meds and said, well, here's your inheritance. Next up we have third story shared by u/David Reed Images. Real estate agent doesn't want to pay my rate for pictures. This happened a few years ago. I just photographed a home for an agent I worked with a couple of times before and who'd always jokingly, I thought, complain about what I charge. At the time, I was actually cheaper than most photographers around here mainly due to relocation and not knowing this market as well. So I tell her what to write check for and she says, that's too much, and writes me a check for 50% of what I just told her. I said that wasn't enough and she said, that's what the other photographer would charge, and I knew that was patently false. So I went home and processed the pictures. And in the middle of every picture, I put a black box that covered exactly 50% of the picture. Then I sent them to her. What's wrong with these pictures? You paid 50%, you get 50%. She PayPal'd me the other 50%. Haven't heard from her since. Weird. Well, that's some quality petty revenge right there. Scream her for being so cheap. Moving on to the fourth story shared by u/JadeRaid7. CB's stepsister leaves me with her kids for 3 days instead of 3 hours, gets mad when I refuse to take care of them. This happened a few years ago during the summer when I was working part-time at my parents' house. My stepsister, the CB, had asked me if I could watch her kids for a few hours at her apartment. I jumped at the opportunity to be out of my parents' house just to relax, especially since she said the kids, ages 2 and 3, would already be asleep for the night. Note that I did this without pay because I knew she couldn't afford to pay me anyway. I get there around 9 p.m. She waves goodbye and says she'll be back in a few hours. 3 hours are fine. I'm just chilling in the living room watching movies and messing around on my phone. My nephews stay asleep. Around 1 a.m. I text her asking what her ETA is. She texts me within minutes, saying that she's running late. Whatever, it's not like I have to get up early or anything. I feel myself dozing off, so I lie down and decide to take a nap. I wake up to the sound of crying and I go check on the nephews. The 2-year-old is awake and being fussy. I glance at the clock at the bedside and I'm shocked when I realize it's 6 in the morning. I check my phone and my mom has called and texted me asking if I ended up staying at the night. There are no messages from my sister. I immediately call her while playing with her younger nephew, where the older nephew is now awake, attempting to climb up my leg. She doesn't answer. Instead, I get a text from her saying that she is in Colorado, not our state. She won't be back for 3 days, and oh, you've gotta take care of the kids too. They have got nowhere else to go. It's just for 3 days. At this point, I know I've been set up, and I text her. If she's not home in the next 5 hours, I'll be taking the kids to their grandparents. Not my parents, who both happen to be busy, and estranged dad's parents. I tell her I'm sure they'd be more than happy to take them both, since they never get to see them. She's instantly texting me paragraphs telling me that I'm not allowed to take her kids there. They judge her, and they have no respect for her. Not true, she just hates them because her baby daddy. She tells me if I take them there, she will sue me, put me in jail for stealing her children, blah blah. I tell her that she shouldn't have abandoned me with her kids then. The following conversation occurs to the best of my knowledge. CB, you agreed to take my kids, you're therefore responsible for them. You can't give them to someone else. Me, I agreed to 3 hours. I'm 18 years old and you left me with really young kids. I have work this evening. I can't watch them for 3 days. Come back now, or I'll take them to their grandparents. They'd be happy to take them. CB, I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of this. I'm giving you my apartment for 3 days, and you get to spend time with your nephews. You should be paying me for the apartment. You're so selfish. Me, wow, okay. I already called grandparents. They're free to take them, so that's where they're going. I'm taking your children to grandparents. Don't ask me again to watch your kids. CB, you ducking tramp. If I was your full sister, you'd do it, you butthole. All you care about is yourself. You won't even spend time with your nephews, ducking piece of crap. I hope you rot in hell. At this point, I just ignore her, call the grandparents, who are more than happy to take them for a few days. They come and pick them up and I leave. When she gets back from the trip, she still stayed the whole 3 days, by the way. She shows up at my parents' house and start cussing me out. My parents kick her out and I don't see her for the rest of the summer. TLDR, my stepsister attempts to guilt me into taking care of her kids for 3 days after agreeing to only a few hours. I tell her no and offer to take them to grandparents' house. She flips her crap and calls me a bunch of names, and the grandparents gladly take care of her kids. Well, I like how the grandparents was such an unacceptable place to be, and that CB still stayed there for 3 whole days. What a hypocrite. The 5th story is shared by u/Amy Case. CB decides my rates after the fact and thinks I'll help her next time. I had a roommate once upon a time, and this roommate had a friend. This friend is our CB. I had a regular job where I work as a cook in a restaurant, but I'm very good with computers and software problems. I know how to run diagnostics, remove viruses and spyware, reinstall Windows, the whole works. If it's only software, I can probably fix the problem, and since this time, I've done this free for family only. Then CB approaches me. CB, so I heard you're good with computers. Me, that's right. CB, so can you fix mine? Me, well, I don't know. I don't really do work for people I don't know. CB, I'll pay you to do it. I just need it done on Friday. You're home then, right? Me, I am, and it will be $25 an hour. CB, yeah, great, fine. CB brings her laptop over that Friday night, hangs out with her friend, while I sit at the kitchen table, diagnose the problem, and remove all the viruses. it takes 3.5 hours, and I give a rundown of the sorts of the problem and tell her it's been just over 3 hours, but $75 will be fine. I'm assured that this is great. CB doesn't have money on her, and I'm skeptical about this, but I'll trust her. Big mistake. CB has to be asked several times through my roommate. The excuses begin. Sure, I'll bring it this week. I'm a little short, I'll come next week. I'm starting to believe that I'm not going to see this money. I'm surprised when CB comes over and she hands me an envelope with what should be my pay. I open it up and it's $30. I look at it and look back up at her. Me, it took me 3 hours. It's $75. CB, well, I talked to my dad and he says that's too much. Me, it's really not. The professional places will charge you double or more, and it was a lot of hard work. CB, oh, I know it was 3 hours, so I brought you 3 hours of what you normally make. Me, this is not the same thing. This is a job involves more technical know-how. I didn't cook for you, I fixed your computer. CB, well, this is all you're getting, so don't bother me again. This CB stiffed me $45. When she came back a month later, telling me that her boyfriend had downloaded all those viruses again, I just shrugged at her. She tried to get me to fix it again for free, but I refused, obviously. She already stiffed me, and she had the nerve to come back and hope I do it again. Not a chance. Well, boys, we all know where her boyfriend accidentally downloaded all those viruses. Probably while browsing safe educational websites, am I right? On to the final story shared by you/Ferris Pig. Had my first beggar after I didn't have time to shovel their driveway. So for starters, I live in an area in Canada, which gets a decent amount of snow. We've had about 3 feet in the last 2 weeks. What's worse is that it's been about minus 35 Celsius ambient most days as well. So not only does it suck shoveling, but doing it when it's freezing is even worse. Now to the story. I live on a street with only few houses and I don't really know or talk to my neighbors all that much. So last week I went out to shovel before I left work so the snow in my driveway wouldn't be driven on. I got up good and early and finished quick when a neighbor kid came over to help me after finishing his drive. We decided to be good neighbors and shovel the other 3 houses on our block. Next day comes and we have another 3 to 4 inches of fluffy snow. Not difficult to shovel, but it still takes time. Same kid comes and helps me to my drive, his drive, and the other 3 houses. I ask if he wants a hot chocolate. He says sure. I give him $20 because hell, he's like 14 and doesn't need to be out there at 6 a.m. shoveling 4 driveways. The next morning, we get another skiff and I slept an extra 15 to 20 minutes, which meant I was only able to shovel my driveway and help the guy to do his before I had to run to work. He said he had to get ready to school and we left the other 3 houses untouched. I came home from work and my wife said that she was being yelled at by one of our neighbors because they were late for work this morning because they were snowed in. I asked which one and decided to go to talk to the neighbor. I was not trying to be confrontational, just seeing what the heck their deal was and why they're approaching my wife. Here's the conversation. Me. Hey, sorry to bug you guys, but my wife told me you guys just had a bit of disagreement today, right? I just want to clear things up. What happened? CB, well, like I told her, I was late for work and I got in trouble because I couldn't get my car out of the garage this morning with the snow. Why didn't you and another boy shovel it? Me, oh sorry, I slept in and Opie had to go to school early, so we only shoveled our own and took off. CB, well, I don't think it's fair at all. You can't just shovel our driveways, then not to do it. I had to go out in cold and shovel then go to work. At this point, I laugh at her. Me, well sorry we made it so tough on you, because we've been out in the cold doing it with 0 thanks. We'll make sure that not to touch your driveway in the future. CB slams doors. Nothing made me happier than the 3 days later when it snowed again and at 68 inches of snow, talking to the other boys about it, and shoveling our driveways and the other 2 drivers on our block and leaving CBs alone. TLDR, shoveled neighbor's driveway 2 days in a row and not the 3rd, got blamed for making her late for work. Sweet justice watching her struggle to shovel later in the week. Man, props to that kid for waking up early to shovel the driveway and the extra house and has school on the same day. I know I don't possess the will nor energy to do that myself. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.